When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink, but I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds. I love chic branding, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Zoe, and you're listening to Climbing in Heels for your weekly dose of glamour, inspiration, and, of course, fun. Okay, so here we are at episode 6 of season 1 of the Rachel Zoe Project. This episode is definitely one of the more iconic episodes that consists of Oscar Sunday and a styling kit full meltdown. It was pretty dramatic, and I actually remember how dramatic it was in real life. As an executive producer of the show, I was very excited to take the audience behind the scenes of how a stylist truly preps for the Oscars. But juggling clients in real life while shooting the show was incredibly challenging. So here to dive into the season finale with me is my producer, Mary Elizabeth. So let's jump right in.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hey.
I only have one thing to say, Rach.
What? Brad or I?
It's Brad or I. Brad or I.
Is that proper
Brad
English?
Or I.
Because you're a little bit more grammatically correct than me.
I think it is correct.
It sounds weird. Brad
me
or
or Brad?
I. Yeah, like choose me or
Brad
Brad,
or
Brad or me. Yeah, me or Brad, Brad or I.
Right.
I don't know. It sounds, for some reason, it sounds wrong, but it might be totally right.
It might be totally right. Regardless, it is in the Bravo universe forever. Episode 6, season 1 is truly one of the more iconic, I would say, talked about, watched. Anytime people come up to you and want to talk about the show, I feel like if they're true Rachel Zoe Project fans, they will reference a styling kit or make a joke about a styling kit.
Yes, truth.
I think it is truly... it's definitely the standout episode of season 1 for many reasons that we're going to get into. Mm-hmm. So,
do you think there was any part of me that ever wanted to brush my hair? Can we just be like superficial, vain, all the things? Because looking at the entire show, and I'm hoping as we unravel the show, like continue to watch it, that I start to look a little less haggard. But it's like, what is wrong with a hairbrush? Like, what did I do? Was I like... Did I burn all my hairbrushes? Did I refuse to use a hairbrush in the show?
I don't really know, but your hair texture seemed much curlier to me then than it is now.
Maybe.
So I think it was just like annoying and time consuming to run a brush through it. So you were like, fuck it. Like, just do it.
I also can tell, and I want to say for the record, that when I wear sunglasses in the show inside, that is because I did not want to sit in hair and makeup.
Right.
That's because I was working so much that I was like, I don't have time to do hair and makeup for the show.
Right.
So as you can tell by my hair, it's clearly slept on and not brushed, and probably wearing, I can tell because I look at my skin. I'm like, I have literally no makeup on. So that is why I'm wearing sunglasses that take up my entire face.
Right. You're not cooler than anyone. You're just hiding behind your
it's not that
sunglasses.
it's not that I'm not trying to like block everyone out. I'm literally hiding my face because I have no makeup on. And under those lights and the HD cameras, I mean, it's just brutal.
You wanted to hide.
Yeah.
Okay. So the episode kicks off with you and Taylor in the studio focusing specifically on Jennifer Garner, who is attending the Oscars and also presenting at the Oscars. So earlier on in the season, we find you at Fashion Week. We see you at the Oscar de la Renta runway show. You and Brad have a discussion about the gowns you want to have from that collection. For Jen. You also then go to Oscar's studio. He shows you other gowns that you also would like to have for Jen. And so these, basically your top 3 Oscar de la Renta gowns arrive at the studio, and you have Taylor put them on before you're fitting with Jen to kind of get a vibe of how they fit, what the fabric looks like, etc. Was that common? Did she try on clothes for you a lot?
I mean, well, full disclosure, Taylor, as brutal as she comes off, like as angry and miserable as she comes off, she loves pretty clothes. And so a lot of times when I wasn't there, she would like take things out of the box and try them on to just see. But like I would have her try on gowns sometimes, or sometimes we'd have interns do it just so that I can literally see it on someone other than like a model on the runway,
right?
You know,
right.
And Taylor, as much as she bitched about it, actually liked it. Like I think she even says that in the episode,
right? That
she actually like didn't hate trying dresses on.
Did you ever try on gowns before clients?
I mean,
to get like a feel for it?
Maybe very rarely, because I was very superstitious with myself. It felt weird. It's like
you're crossing a line of some sort.
Yeah, it did. I was such like a goody about that. Like, I don't know. I was so precious with my clients, and I think like I didn't want to feel like I put their look on, and somehow trying it on an assistant felt okay. I don't know why.
Yes.
But Taylor sometimes would refuse, as you can imagine. And I think, but I also, what I tried to do is I tried to also put it on someone who had a body similar to the client.
Sure.
Like height. Like I remember we had an intern that was really tall, and I would always have her try on stuff for Cameron to see how it
that
looked,
makes sense.
You know?
How tall is Cameron Diaz?
She's tall. Cameron is
like 5'10"?
Yeah. Cameron's 5'9", 5'10" probably.
Yeah. Okay. That's tall.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 3 gowns are in. Taylor's trying them on. And then it cuts to a video package of Jen talking about you.
Mm-hmm. She's just the cutest.
Was it
I love her
really
so much.
heartwarming? I hope it was heartwarming for you to see, because she's very complimentary of you. She's her typical wonderful, relatable self in saying, I don't really know anything about clothes or fashion, but I love Rachel. I'm proud to be her first client, she says. I am very, not in the know. She says you have impeccable taste. And she says like she has an appreciation of fashion because of you.
Jen, and the irony now, fun fact, is that we've been school parents together for the last several years. And that's how like full circle our life went. Like when I started working with Jen, she was living in this great little house in the Palisades, and she was shooting Alias. And she was working the most grueling schedule. Like it felt like she was working 6 days a week. I don't know if that's legal, and I probably am making that up, but like I would go to her trailer for her fittings. I would get like 30 minutes with her to try on everything. And it was literally in the middle of nowhere. Like literally I would drive like an hour or two and fit her at like 1 a.m. because that was her quote unquote like dinner break.
Right.
If they were shooting at night or whatever. So she had the craziest schedule. And Jen truly is the nicest, most considerate, most real girl person. And the best thing about Jen, and people always would like ask me, what's the thing we don't know about Jen? What's a fun fact about Jen? I'm like, she's literally the funniest person I've ever known.
She is very charming.
Literally the funniest,
she
self-deprecating, but she really has an appreciation and takes great humor in herself. And I think that's how we connected, because I really make fun of myself all the time, and she made fun of herself. And so it was this perfect marriage of like, okay, Jen, if you wear this, I promise I will have a bathrobe and slippers waiting for you in the car to get into the minute you jump in the car, And so
I love a little bribery.
Well, yeah. And also I would come in, and we'd come in with like a deer, and Paul Starr, may he rest in peace, one of the most brilliant makeup artists of all time, died very tragically from an illness, very like suddenly. And we will miss him, honestly, forever. We still talk about him all the time. But but we were this like kind of dream team that all just would commiserate and talk about, we would meet and talk and have 18 meetings and inspos and da-da-da. And Jen would just sit there and be like, in her overalls, making us biscotti. And
be like, huh?
Yeah. And she'd be like, okay, tell me what you want me to wear. She would be like, just tell me your dream. And then I'm going to tell you what I want to be in. And then let's find like, and then sometimes she like wouldn't even look in the mirror. She would just literally, I'd put her in something and she'd be like, okay, so we love this. Great.
Off I
like,
go. Off
and,
I go.
And that was it. And that was, Jen was my first red carpet Hollywood awards season client.
Right.
She is 100% correct about that.
The first one going to big
She was the
award shows.
first time that I ever styled somebody. I think it was for the Emmys in 2003. God help me.
Yeah.
And
that sounds right.
Yeah. And so crazy.
It is funny now. You and I were commenting as we were watching the episode. It's funny now to. So there's a black gown. There is a true ball gown,
like a princessy,
and
one.
there is a very like almost like mermaid fit, sort of very tight with a lot of tulle that kicks out at the bottom. And you love that gown. You loved the tulle. You thought it was
an Oscar made that for her,
right? And you loved
May
it.
he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. Also, you loved that one. You had an instinct that Jen was going to want to wear the black. And you didn't want to force her into
You can't.
the tight tulle because in those times when you were dressing people, best dressed and worst dressed was an actual thing.
Not only was it a thing, but it was polarizing. There
Right.
was like, it was free press to say whatever anyone wanted, to be as cruel as you wanted. The fashion police with Joan Rivers and like Stephen
right.
Koshikaru and like all these people were at the height of like fashion criticism. They felt, and in my opinion, had no right to do that because they weren't actually fashion people and they didn't actually know anything about what went on. It's not like today when you talk about it,
they were comedians. They
were comedians using real people as fodder, like and you know, subjects for their humor.
And don't you kind of laugh now at thinking about
caring about that?
No, not caring about it, but just the dress itself.
Yeah,
the dress
it was not a risk.
It's not
it
that
was
scary.
Completely, it wasn't scary at all. It was like a ballerina dress.
It's so funny now to think because as we were saying, we were like, couture has like exploded into these like volume and layers of tulle and very
and you have
dramatic.
like Lady Gaga and like
right. This was like before that, so it's just so funny to be like, oh, this dress, it's a risk.
But I think the thing was in those days, you know, 20 years ago, if you had, there was Cher and Bjork, right?
Yeah,
Bjork.
Bjork. She wore the swan.
Yeah. And you had that, but that was like its own world. That was its own thing. Okay, Cher's going to come in like a headdress, right? And then there was the movie stars that were expected to look like movie stars, right? And like, give us our princess, give us our queen, give us our whatever. And the only people that would take a risk was like a Cate Blanchett or a Nicole Kidman, maybe. And because they were these tall, swan-like creatures, they could get away with it. Even if people hated it, it was fine, you know? And so for me as a fashion person, I really battled that in my subconscious was sort of like, or my conscious, I would say, was this is fashion. This is boring, but safe.
Yep.
I want to do fashion, but I also don't want them to get crushed in the media because that will kill them. And a few of them didn't care what the media said, and most of them did.
Right.
They did. Even if they said they didn't, they did.
Of course.
You know.
They're human. Yeah.
They're human. And I think so for me, what ultimately became the biggest challenge for me as a stylist was, how do I find the place to make mainstream media happy and fashion happy and them the happiest?
Right.
How do they feel the best and them get great press on all sides?
Right.
And that's really ultimately what I remember the most in the end, was having that. And then it came to a point where I would literally say to my client, like, the People magazines and the Us Weeklies are not going to understand this look.
Right.
I'm
They're just not
telling
going
you
to get
that.
it.
They're not.
But if you love it, you're like, I got your back. As
And
your
also,
stylist.
Women's Wear Daily, Vogue, and all the fashion magazines will love this dress.
Right.
So it was sort of like, choose.
You have to pick. Yeah.
It almost never was loved by all, which is why later, the Valentino, the one-shouldered coral Valentino that Jen wore, the archive from 1971, that was shocking because everyone loved that.
Right.
And that was like a big sort of coup, I guess, and a game-changing moment in my career because I was like, wait, I didn't think they were going to get that, but they did. So I think to Jen's thing is because it was ultimately so important for me that the client, that I was not pushing them.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hold that responsibility. No. And also for her to not feel
her
herself.
best.
And I will say this about the ivory one. It washed her out ultimately.
Yeah.
Jen
she said it was a little too nude.
It was. It was the color ultimately. And what I realized at that point, had it been blush pink nude, it would have worked.
Yeah.
But it was truly nude and it made her yellow.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like her hair was very like darker then than it is now. Okay. So simultaneously as you are a crazy person dressing a million people for the Oscars, Rodger is shopping for your 10th anniversary gift.
Because of course the Oscars was always around our anniversary.
Of course.
Note to any listeners, don't get married in February if you're in fashion or in entertainment. Just don't do it.
Too much going on. Too much going on.
Just don't do it.
So Rodger is on the hunt for a vintage Porsche. And he is, telling viewers that like you have a passion for vintage cars and you always spot them and like them and whatever. Is that still true? Do you notice?
I'm obsessed with vintage. I mean, well, here's the thing. Since I've had children, I'm less obsessed with anything like that because my before I had children, everything was focused on like what was beautiful, materials, things to collect, blah, blah, blah. And like now I'm like, what's the safest car that's pretty?
Yeah.
Like what is the biggest tank that is pretty that can protect us from getting hit by a bus?
I would probably, I would imagine that the vintage Porsche does not have airbags.
It doesn't have anything. It doesn't even have air conditioning.
Barely a seatbelt.
No, no.
So it's very sweet. Rodger is talking to a friend about it. He's doing his research about the car, which is very sweet. Because if you remember in episode 5, you guys got into it about the plans for the anniversary. So
and also the other thing is I want to really point out about the show until I think the last season is that we were like two successful entrepreneurs, I guess, that worked 24/7 and had no kids.
Sure.
So like we were just like, what are we buying?
Yeah.
Where are we going? Like
you got cash.
Life was a little more
flexible. You were flexible. Yeah. Okay. So meanwhile, at the Rachel Zoe studio, tension is really building between Brad and Taylor. Taylor has a little micro meltdown about garment bags.
Taylor had a meltdown once a day.
Yeah. So
it's not more.
You can definitely feel the tension between them building. I think you even say in an interview, Brad and Taylor are acting like oil and water. Like it doesn't seem like they're gelling. It doesn't seem like they are communicating on the same wavelength. You make a plea to them to be like, please, can we just table all of this until we get through Oscar Sunday and then we can like have a come to Jesus meeting. So tension is for sure building. Then you and Taylor go do a big jewelry pull, which is my favorite part about the episode. And you say to the clerk at the jewelry place, you're like, I need more trays to create stories.
Yes.
So I want you to, it is like a true styling tip for people. I want you to explain what you mean by that because I think it's a good takeaway for people.
Yeah. I mean, because I was never really pulling for one dress, I had to be prepared with multiple options for each look, right? So if we had the nude dress, the black dress, because at the time we didn't know which dress, right? And that was, I would say 80% of the time, my clients didn't decide till the night before or the morning of. Oof. Because it was always down to 2.
Yeah.
And they were typically apples and oranges. Ugh. And it was really hard. And I think now I see clients, I see stylists and they have one choice. They pick the jewelry. You know what I mean? There isn't. It's interesting. I don't know why that is. I think it's because more celebrities have deals with different houses. So it's like which Louis Vuitton look or which Chanel look, right? So it's a little less, I think, dramatic in that way. But the jewelry. So what I did was there was different ways that I could style jewelry for the look, right? So even if I had an ivory, if she wore the nude dress, right?
Yeah.
With a nude dress, it's a blank canvas. Same with a black dress, honestly. Like, so you could go yellow gold with colored stones, right? Or you could do, and very vintagey, or you could do platinum with diamonds. You could do full deco. You could do, so
Right.
I liked to create trays that had jewelry that was merged together. So it was like, okay, we're going with yellow vibe. Okay, let's do this. So it was like these earrings, these da-da-da.
And
so
this
I
is
created stories, like vignettes
which
kind of.
totally makes sense. This was before smartphones. Were you taking photos on your BlackBerry of the tray so you remembered? Or
Polaroids.
Polaroids. Or I was going to say, or was the store packing them up for you in one place? Like, this is the story for the black.
No, typically I would just set them up.
Right, because then you have to
just
get to the
out.
client and then reset up the story.
And that's the thing people don't see is like behind all of this, there's, security guards everywhere.
Right.
Because it's millions of dollars of jewelry.
You're signing in, pretty intense paperwork also when you're loaning that amount of jewelry.
Yep. And as a stylist, we had insurance
Sure.
for these things,
Right. Is there a big jewelry snafu that you can remember about like an Oscar?
When I got robbed the night before an award show.
Yeah, that was
a big snafu.
That was a big snafu. But didn't you personally had stuff taken? But didn't you throw a towel over the Cartier jewelry and they didn't touch a thing?
It was the freakiest thing that ever happened. It was like one of those weird gut things that I did before I ran down the street to have dinner and put the borrowed jewelry on my shoe shelves.
Yeah.
And it was on trays out for the fitting the next morning at 8 a.m. And right as I was leaving, even though my closet had deadbolts and whatever, I remember throwing something over the trays on my shoe shelves. It was like a scarf or a towel. I can't remember, just so it wasn't like out and exposed.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the thieves took stuff from my jewelry drawers, which had my personal jewelry, and totally did not, which, by the way, better.
Right.
Better than vintage Fred Leighton and Cartier.
Heartbreaking, but honestly, for your business and for your...
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have, rectified that.
Yeah, that's...
But I also had an assistant that got her car broken into with a million garment bags in it in front of Earth Cafe.
Ugh, yeah. It's scary. It's an intense thing.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's very bad. We were watching the jewelry story moment and you were like, oh my God, what's that diamond ring on my finger? Whatever. And it's still you. You were like dripping in diamonds as you're pulling stories.
Truthfully.
You're just such a jewelry freak that you're like putting jewelry on yourself as you're pulling.
There was never a moment that I would pull jewelry from whether it was vintage Bulgari, Cartier, Van Cleef, Fred Leighton, Neil Lane, that I wouldn't have at least 3 or 4 pieces on me while I was pulling it.
I remember you and I were in 14 Carats in LA and we had run in for somebody's gift. It was like Pamela's birthday or your mom. Somebody was celebrating something and you were going to have jewelry picked for them. So we're in there and we're putting stuff on and you got home and you had like 2 rings on your hand. And I was like, oh, let me text the girls and tell them I'm going to drive it back. Because you just love to load yourself down.
More.
With jewelry. As you are pulling jewelry, Taylor, again, we see a scene of you and Brad. You're clearly in like the office part of your house / studio. You guys are yucking it up. You guys are like joking and teasing each other. The footage is cutting back to Taylor, moving gowns on rails, opening boxes, schlepping around in the studio. There's a scene where you and Brad are still chatting, and it looks like she's sort of lurking in the hallway. And she overhears you guys, whatever, chumming it up. And she has a little bit of a fit and storms out of the studio. You have to call her. I think you have a scene in a car where she is very upset by the workflow of the studio. She feels like she's still doing all of the grunt work that Brad was hired to take off of her shoulders. She makes a lot of comments about schlepping garment bags, which is like the job, by the way. And again, you make a plea. You're like, what do I need to do? I can't have you unhappy. I can't have Brad unhappy right now. I need you guys to like work together, please. We've got so much going on. it's the Oscars tomorrow. Like, just can we table this? Whatever. Mm-hmm. You throw out an idea. You say, maybe I'll hire another assistant. And she's like, great. That sounds like a solution. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're not going to hire someone overnight.
Right, of course. Day before the Oscars.
So again, it seems like you are making sure everyone's happy so that you can just get through the freaking weekend. Mm-hmm.
It's literally amazing. I was watching this and thinking like, I was like I worked for them. I was like scared of them.
Yeah.
When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink. Like most working moms, I'm constantly juggling my work and my family life, and sometimes all that decision making is truly exhausting. But at least I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for many, many years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds and has added electrolytes for taste. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, every morning, is head down to my kitchen to drink water. Hydrating with Smart Water is my favorite way to start the day, and making that simple choice is such a refreshing change of pace from the whirlwind of my life. Starting my day by focusing on myself and my health is so important to me. I'm always a lover of chic branding and packaging, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. I absolutely love how the rounded bottle fits perfectly into my kids' side pockets for school or camp. Smart Water even looks chic displayed on any counter or vanity in my house. As most moms know, it can be tricky to get kids to drink enough water, but my boys absolutely love the taste of Smart Water, and the sports cup is great for their very, very active days. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more.
My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big MQL man. Then he just kept saying things like, the more MQLs, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means marketing qualified lead. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the MQL man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/customer to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/customer. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So, buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic. oracle.com/strategic.
When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink. Like most working moms, I'm constantly juggling my work and my family life, and sometimes all that decision making is truly exhausting. But at least I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for many, many years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds and has added electrolytes for taste. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, every morning, is head down to my kitchen to drink water. Hydrating with Smart Water is my favorite way to start the day, and making that simple choice is such a refreshing change of pace from the whirlwind of my life. Starting my day by focusing on myself and my health is so important to me. I'm always a lover of chic branding and packaging, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. I absolutely love how the rounded bottle fits perfectly into my kids' side pockets for school or camp. Smart water even looks chic displayed on any counter or vanity in my house. As most moms know, it can be tricky to get kids to drink enough water, but my boys absolutely love the taste of Smart Water, and the sports cup is great for their very, very active days. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more. When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink. Like most working moms, I am constantly juggling my work and my family life, and sometimes all that decision making is truly exhausting. But at least I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for many, many years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds and has added electrolytes for taste. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, every morning, is head down to my kitchen to drink water. Hydrating with Smart Water is my favorite way to start the day, and making that simple choice is such a refreshing change of pace from the whirlwind of my life. Starting my day by focusing on myself and my health is so important to me. I'm always a lover of chic branding and packaging, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. I absolutely love how the rounded bottle fits perfectly into my kids' side pockets for school or camp. Smart Water even looks chic displayed on any counter or vanity in my house. As most moms know, it can be tricky to get kids to drink enough water, but my boys absolutely love the taste of Smart Water, and the sports cup is great for their very, very active days. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more.
It appears that you were.
Well,
yeah.
Listen, Taylor is a mean girl, clearly. I don't have to, that is so evident, right?
Yeah.
Like, the thing is with Taylor is that she was good at the job.
Yeah.
She was good at the job, but I think she was good at the job, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
the persona is sort of
her disposition was just brutal. Like, it was just brutal. Like, there was these light moments we would have.
Yeah.
And
you
I would
do
be
see
like,
a little bit of that. You do see her joke and laugh and all of that. But, when you're making a television show, it's like way more interesting to show her not doing that and to show her being
truthfully 90% of the time
off
she
the
was
rails.
as you saw her.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think because I was such a workaholic, I just think I couldn't be bothered with it. I was sort of like, that's who she is. I can't. I just need to get shit done.
Yeah.
And I need someone that can do it well. You know what I mean? And I think I was more focused on that than anything else. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And around the clients, she was professional.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's good. Yeah. It just seemed like it wasn't great. So you basically get her back in your good into a good attitude, for lack of a better word.
But I think, as she mentioned, I didn't want her to quit.
No, you couldn't.
I had 5 clients.
You couldn't have her quit. It was too much. You have a meeting with the wonderful Adir.
Mm-hmm. The best
of the best. And he is going through, you guys are going through hair, makeup, inspiration for Jen for one of the Oscar dresses. It's so funny to see and hear Adir, because he still is so passionate and creative and wonderful and lovely about how he approaches hair. And it's fun to see that what you guys were talking about is what goes down the carpet. Jen, he does the look that you guys are mentioning, low, slightly off to the side, fuzzy, not perfect, but a little textured.
Adir, I think the reason Adir and I were so connected and still are today is because we definitely worked probably the hardest.
Yeah.
But I think we were equally obsessed and in love with our craft. What we were doing was, we both treated it as though we were saving lives, but yet our love for the client, especially Jen, was so real that we just were and Jen just did. She was just do whatever you crazy people want.
Right. She literally makes fun of you guys, and she's like, lashes, no lashes.
Yeah, exactly.
Nude lip, bare lip, berry lip. Yeah.
Funniest person.
Yeah. So it's wonderful to see Adir and how his passion for hair and beauty and glamour is still just as strong today.
I mean, I think he's probably the number one out there at this point, if not
major
top
clients.
5 of like, I mean, there's no one he hasn't done or does.
Right. I mean,
and he's still he's the sweetest. He just loves it. He's an artist, you know?
Yeah. He's the best.
And dances at work. That's his thing.
He is like one of the most positive, optimistic people.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. And it's interesting because we have our talks. Like he keeps it real,
Yeah.
And his husband is extraordinary. So
love them.
Love them. Love him, love them.
Okay. So now we arrive at Oscar morning. Mm-hmm. There is a scene that takes place where Brad and Taylor are making their kits or setting up their kits for the day. Obviously planting the seed for what happens moments later. Mm-hmm. So we talked about the kit in episode 5, what it is and how important it is to a stylist. We see Brad making his. Taylor makes a comment like he still doesn't get how to pack it. Like she's telling Joey he needs to put everything in a Ziploc bag so you can get it. And Joey's like, well, if you tell him to do that, he'll do it. Like he's not an idiot.
Sure.
And she's like, why do I have to tell him? He should just know.
Well, that was the thing. I mean, I think she just was like, she wasn't setting him up for success, but I think to her point, it is common sense.
Totally.
She's not wrong.
Right.
That is.
She's not wrong. She does remind me of myself, and it's hard for her to delegate.
Yeah, of course.
It's hard to let go of like,
of course.
I don't know. I have a very hard time being like, you do that for me.
Right.
So I think that is also a little bit about her. Like,
Totally.
I think she has a hard time
100%.
stopping and explaining because she just is like, I do it. I know how I do it. I do it efficiently. Boom, boom, boom.
But she also didn't have any patience, so she wasn't going to take any extra time.
And ultimately, he still is in quote unquote training. I mean, he was technically new to
newish. It was his first
your
Oscars.
Clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think as they were going through kits, that would have been a given. Like that, it was definitely his bad. Right. She could have double checked to make sure. But I think as I look at it, it's sort of like, but why should she have done that? Like, why wouldn't if they have kits, why wouldn't I need a kit?
Yeah,
like
that's literally what Taylor says.
Yeah, and so I do see that, and
so
I do understand that.
What happened as we watched the show happened for real. This was not something that was staged.
No. So here's the thing I want to say about this episode. From what I was seeing, 100% of this episode was real.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because I very clearly remember, and that's why I have sunglasses on in the whole thing. I remember saying to the producers, guys, I don't have time to like stop and reshoot or stop and like you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
This is going to be like, we're shooting.
Yeah.
Because this is real. This is not a drill.
Yeah.
This is really happening. So you're just going to have to follow and get what you can.
Right.
But I don't have
I can't
time.
walk down the hallway 3 times.
No.
Yeah.
There's no starting,
if my
stopping.
mic hits something, it hits something.
Sorry, if your audio is screwed up, like
we got to
keep
keep
what
moving.
it is. But this is not a drill, and I have no time to stop and shoot. So this was this was very real. This was, and I'm watching it, and I remember very clearly, like I think I was crying at some point, like I under my glasses, like I think I felt so
stressed out. I'm sure you were stressed out.
There's so much adrenaline. There's so little sleep. There's so, it's weird because as a mother, I'm sort of like, God, you're not fucking saving lives. But at the same time, that was how I approached it, because the way that these people were judged, still are judged, and putting them out there in front of the world, and you're in charge of their entire image in that moment.
Yeah.
And their look and their jewelry and their face and their, and the whole thing. And if it's bad and they feel shit, you're responsible for that. Like how they feel on the inside, you can't help. You try to help that, obviously.
Yeah.
As best you can. But like at the end of the day, there's a responsibility that I carried, that stylists carry, that hair and makeup carries. that at the end of the day, if they don't feel amazing, you didn't do your job.
Yeah.
And that was really, for me, that was such a
That's
personal.
That's personal.
It's
yeah.
personal. And it was a very personal, heavy weight that I carried wherever I went. And other stylists that I was friends with didn't share that same feeling. They were like, she didn't like it. I was like, and how do you function?
Yeah.
How do you function now? You know?
Yeah, you're married to the game.
I was married to the game.
You're married to the game.
Yeah.
So here's the movements as I understand them from rewatching it. It's Oscar morning. It's divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm. I had 5 clients, I think.
You had 5 clients, and 2 of those were presenting. So 2, I believe, Cameron and Jen. I know Jen was
Cameron
presenting, and I
Jen.
think Jen was. Okay, so you...
And I think Demi, but we didn't show her.
We don't follow Demi at all.
Yeah.
My guess is that Taylor was with Demi because she made a comment later. She makes a comment later. Did anybody even check on Demi?
Right.
Oh, I did because I
Right.
do everything.
Right. Exactly.
So I think she probably went to Demi. You went to Jen. Brad
went
is
to Kate.
packing up looks for Kate Beckinsale, seemingly just to drop them off. And then he's going to meet you at Jen.
Right.
He is come back to the studio and he is going back to Kate because he gets a phone call. She needs more shoe options and bag options because whatever was there isn't working. You guys have a conversation. You tell him to go. You're on your way to Jen thinking everything is there. The gowns are there. The shoes are there. The bag is there. You get to Jen and find out when Brad dropped everything off, he didn't leave a kit. So that was real. That wasn't a Bravo storyline.
I was at Cameron's. I sent Cameron out.
You went to Cameron's house. That's what it was.
Yep.
Jen was good. Jen was locked in.
And her dress, that Dior dress, it was between that and another dress, by the way.
It's so
and
funny.
I remember it was the most Cameron Diaz thing you could ever do. Throw on a Dior couture and a pair of heels and run out the door. She barely jewelry, barely makeup.
I mean, she looks like a little surfer girl.
That-
She's so beautiful.
Literally. Surfer couture.
Do you remember, were there cameras when you got to Cameron or did you not shoot Cameron?
Oh, no.
You did not shoot Cameron. Okay. Because I was curious from a viewer if like you had that footage and then as EP you guys decided we don't want to show it.
It probably showed me like in the car, but Cameron was not aware of any of it.
Got it.
No.
So you get there.
Cameron's very, very private. There are certain clients throughout the season you'll see that some are very happy to be on. And I don't think it's that she didn't. I'm not even sure that I asked. I think I know that Cameron's a very private person.
Yes. Did Cameron realize that you were sort of floundering when you got there? Like you were like, oh my God, there's only 2 pairs of shoes. There's only 1 bag. There's no kit.
Do you know what? It was one of the worst moments ever. It really was. Yeah, because I think the expectation that my clients had of me was I was always the sort of most over-prepared person. Like I had 600 things for their one.
Sure.
You know, probably almost to a detriment sometimes. I overtook their rooms, you know, with things, but I never didn't have what I needed.
Yeah.
And I remember the shoes that she chose, I believe, were too big. They were like a half size big, and I needed insoles.
Yeah.
And I remember needing, I think, tops. I just remembered there was kit things that were needed in the final moment.
Yes.
You know, because Cameron wasn't the kind of person that like sat for 10 hours to get ready. She was like, sometimes she even did her own makeup. Like,
right. Yeah.
You know, and so it was always I better have everything like ready for the exit.
Yes.
You know, and not having it in those moments for someone who is very low maintenance and doesn't ask a lot is like to not have what you need. You know, I used to say it's like a doctor not having what they need for the diagnosis. It's like they forgot their stethoscope. It's like not having top stick or pins or like that's the job.
Yeah.
That is literally the job. You know?
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it's embarrassing too. You're like, oh my God.
It's embarrassing. It's horrifying. And I was by myself and like.
And then Joey saves the day.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah, that is true.
You remember calling Joey.
Because I knew he might be at the
shoes.
studio.
Yeah. He packed
waiting
up.
to watch the show because we always did that together.
Yeah.
So I 911'd him and I was like, Oh my God.
You've got to drive over here. Saved the day.
For real.
So needless to say, you all meet back at the studio. You've called Taylor to let her know that it was a disaster at Cameron's, that shit went bad. You didn't have what you needed. You're commiserating with Joey and Rodger and Taylor, and then Brad calls Taylor and says he's coming back to the studio. You have obviously called Brad. It's not on the show.
Right.
But you've obviously called Brad and sort of read him the right act. Do
I
you
think
remember that?
I think they show that. I think that's on it.
They don't show you guys talking on the phone about that. They show you telling Taylor it was a disaster. You didn't have what you needed. You didn't have anything.
So maybe I didn't because you know me, I'm not confrontational.
No.
I don't like disciplining, and I don't like reprimanding people. And so I called Taylor to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What? How?
And I bet she
on
called
what
him.
planet does something like that
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah. So shit hits the fan. Brad comes back. He pulls you aside into one of the bedrooms, and he's very emotional. And he's like, I can't do this
I can't
job.
do this.
It's too high pressure. He's obviously regretful of the situation. You're trying to, because he's so emotional, you're trying to calm him down. Knowing you don't want anybody to be that upset about anything.
No.
You're pleading with him. You're like, this is close. It's not saving lives.
Yep.
It's okay. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yep.
You then say, Taylor once made a mistake when we were on a shoot in Prague. And then sure as shit.
And by the way, it was with Brad Pitt. Which that was not a fun mistake.
No, that's not a good mistake either. Then she comes barreling in the room and says, don't throw me on, like, don't use me as an example. And I don't make mistakes and all that. That happened in real life. So when you're shooting something like that,
And you can
you
tell,
can
by
see
the
her
way.
lurking in the hallway, which was really happening. And I'm sure a camera just followed her right in.
You know what it was like? It was like watching like lions like pacing.
Yeah.
Like, about to like attack.
Yeah, ready to
That's
jump
how
in.
she was.
Yeah. So that's all legit. It's not like
Everything
Bravo was like,
real.
cut, come back in the room,
You have
Taylor.
to remember, we're not actors.
No.
So
No.
that was as real as it gets. And I remember after that whole thing, production being like, well, that was fucking amazing. And I was like, what happened? Like, I literally, because I was so in it.
Yeah.
And I was so, I think, beaten down at that point.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, fuck.
So she does come in. That's all real.
Oh, yeah.
She tells you how it is.
Oh, yeah.
She says Brad is not qualified to do this job. It's common sense. He should know better, blah, blah, blah. Brad gets very upset. He says, I'm going to leave. He leaves. You guys are all, Rodger gets food for everybody because it's lovely classic Rodger. And you get a text message from Brad saying, like, thanks, but I can't work in an abusive environment. Which sparks Taylor to say, like, is he fucking joking? It's him or I. Did you, in real time, in real life, to the best of your memory, did you really feel like that was it? Like, this was like, there was not going to be a coming back of this.
No, I knew that in that moment, she was dead fucking serious. She was like, I'm so out of here because he's so far up your ass. He's stroking you.
Yeah.
He's blah, blah, blah. And you don't see it and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, they were just polar opposites in every possible way.
Sure. So you were like, one of them is going to leave. Like,
100%.
This cannot continue the way it is now.
Correct. And I mean, listen, at the end of the day, Taylor was a bully. Like, at the end of the day, she really, in those moments, was a bully. As I'm watching it, she was bullying me.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I was literally scared of her.
Yeah. And it is so true about what you were trying to say to Brad about, like, everybody makes mistakes before she, like, comes in and is angry at everybody. What you're saying about mistakes is so true. It's like you don't get better at anything without fucking up.
You have to fuck up or you'll never know.
Yeah.
You have, you know, we all, I've made countless mistakes.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Everyone makes mistakes. But so listen, some are harder. And in those days, I don't know if it happens now, but in those days, he would have been fired 10 times before.
Yeah.
Like, I have always had more grace
Yeah.
than probably anybody because even, by the way, even now today, I have friends that are like, she did what? Oh,
Right.
I would have fired her. Like,
Right.
so there is that. And part of me, and I struggle with that because
Yep.
I think sometimes I'm too soft about things. And then other times I'm like, but my thing is when someone's a great person and has an amazing work ethic, but they're young and they have not experienced life yet or work life yet or like haven't earned their grit yet, you have to have some grace for that. Because
Totally.
I think that being a good person and having an incredible work ethic and attitude to me is more valuable
100%
than anything else because you can learn anything else. And after a certain time, obviously, if you can't learn it, it's time to let the person go.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
At some point, that grace period has to end.
Right. But like respecting and valuing somebody's work ethic and their ability to want to learn is definitely an important thing. Do you remember one of my big F-ups as your assistant?
I remember your only F-up.
It's
and
not
it
the
wasn't,
only.
and
It's not
it was
the only.
the only F-up.
It's not the only.
You forgot.
Guys.
And I'll never forget it because
It
she
was
was
the
like
worst.
in tears.
I almost went on foot. Okay.
It was nothing. It was, they let me in right away.
It was horrifying. Okay. So it was, it was Burberry.
It was Burberry.
Burberry was doing a fashion show here in Los Angeles.
Christopher Bailey was taking over the Griffith Observatory with Burberry.
At that time, Rachel was living in Beverly Hills. The show was supposed to start at like 6 p.m., which if anybody knows, going east in LA
1 hour
at 5 p.m. is gridlock, brutal,
and really east.
Horrible traffic.
Yeah.
Everything said, guests for the show must have the physical invitation or they will not be allowed at the show. It's like no exceptions, didn't care. So they had to have the physical invitation. What's the one thing I sent you out the door without? You and Rodger. You did not have your paper invitations to get in.
Nope.
Caius was a baby and Skylar was a toddler. And I was doing something in the front, or there was a knock on the door, and I went to the front, and by your old front door, I'll never forget, you had a glass credenza table and they were both sitting there, and I almost went into cardiac arrest. And I was like, oh my God, the fucking invitations are right here. I panicked. I freaked out. I called you. I was like, I will meet you. I will meet you. Where are you? I will come in the car, whatever. It was the kids' dinner time. They were upset. I couldn't leave. Long story sideways, I couldn't leave the house. So now I'm calling everybody, emailing everybody at Burberry saying, Rachel Zoe's on her way. Please let her in. She doesn't have her physical invite. It's my fault. It's not her fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. I'm taking photos, sending them to Rodger. Like, look, this is the front. This is the back.
And I think like they let us in right away. Like it was no big deal. And I remember
Didn't
like
you
calling
get in because Victoria Beckham was
Correct.
standing right there, and you guys just started talking. They were like, "Oh, right this way." And you were like, "Mary, it wasn't a big deal."
Also, I happened to walk in with Christopher. Like he was right at the front, and Rosie Huntington
saved my ass, you guys.
But you were so shook. You were so shook. But the thing is, when it involves me, it's not as bad. When it's with a client, it's much harder.
That's different. Yeah.
It was like me getting my jewelry stolen versus like
Cartier's,
Cartier.
yeah.
Because how do I tell them that?
Right. Exactly. It's so funny. Yeah. So everyone makes mistakes. Okay.
And colossal ones, or
And big
seemingly
ones.
colossal.
Yeah. I mean, I've copied wrong people on the wrong emails. I mean, you do it all. You live, you learn.
But also, I think had that mistake happened with the no kit in like a no big deal situation, like she was going to like a small event and she didn't have a heel pad, like, okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oscars.
I think what ended up happening, funny enough, in hindsight, I actually think I ended up jumping in the car with her.
Did you?
And like putting insoles in her shoes and top sticking. And like I had to do something, I think, with a piece of her jewelry. Like there was a whole bunch of things. And I think I rode with her.
To the
and then I
carpet?
think I like jumped out.
That's so funny.
Like the whole thing was crazy.
It's
like
a lot.
I have laid in cars with people.
It is not glamorous.
To keep their dress straight.
It's not glamorous. It's just not. There's no two ways about it.
No. But I will say when I watched this episode, I will say that it was probably, of all the episodes, probably the most 100% real, unscripted from start to finish.
Yeah. So then we see Taylor call Brad
Right.
and basically apologize. She doesn't want to make him feel as horrible as she did. She kind of gets him back. She's like, you're not going to quit, are you? And you can hear him be like, no. So it's like all good in the Zoe world again. There's harmony until later.
And then I get my car.
And then you get your car.
I love my car. We still have our car.
You still have her.
We still have our car. And the funny part is that the boys are fighting for who gets it when they get their license. And I'm like, no one's sitting in that car.
Neither of you.
You can sit in the front seat when dad drives down the street and that's it.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no.
It's a beautiful car.
It is
Rachel
a
and
beautiful
Rodger
car to
still
look
have
at.
it. Yeah. It's kind of, I remember a lot of
Malibu.
AAA calls.
Yep.
It needs a new battery.
Needs everything.
It's got to jump. You got to jump it all. Yeah. I remember.
But just remember whose car it is.
I know.
Dylan McKay.
Dylan
Rest
McKay.
in peace.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's wild.
Okay. So watching all of season 1 back.
Was there only 6 episodes?
There's only 6 in season 1.
And then we went to 8.
And then you guys jumped to 8.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think you slightly shortened them.
Got it.
What is one thing you wish the show showed more of in season 1?
Well, first off, from a vanity perspective, me with better hair and makeup and better lighting.
Got it.
I'm here to say that.
The lighting does get better. I will tell you
Okay,
that.
thank God.
Yeah.
Because that is unacceptable lighting. Unacceptable lighting. What was the question? What do I wish they showed more of?
Yes. What do you wish there was more footage of?
In all of season 1.
I know my answer.
They covered a lot of real shit, the real stuff.
No, they did, yeah.
When I'm thinking about it, like, it was pretty raw, you know? It was pretty raw. Like, I was crying and
Yeah.
my
I mean,
dad.
the studio really
trying to
did flood.
remember. Yeah.
The dresses that Brad was trying to get from
Season 1 was a
Italy
real
did not
season.
arrive on,
Right,
it was real. But I wish they would have shown or shot or included or even set up another photo shoot. Watching you style a model for a photo shoot.
Right.
Because again, when you're working around the client thing, a lot of the times they're there, a lot of the times they're not there.
Right.
So watching you really work and style.
Right.
There's that glimpse of it in episode
Sure.
5.
Yeah.
But I wish there was more showing you work more in an editorial head. Because that's where, to me, it's like you're alive and you can see how much you love it.
Because styling a model for a shoot, an editorial shoot, to me was my happiest place. That was like Disney for me, truthfully.
Yeah.
That was Disney. I mean, it was really just the be-all, end-all because it was my creative freedom.
Yeah.
You know? It was my creative freedom and my absolute happiest me.
Yeah.
I could like do that in my sleep.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just.
But I didn't make any money doing that.
Right. To me, it's the most exciting part because you're really watching you sort of in real time style, which what the whole show was about, allegedly. But anyways, we're going to keep recapping Rachel Zoe. We're going to have some guests back on Climbing in Heels. We're going to keep interviewing some of your favorite people in the world. But I say we keep going.
I mean, guys, tell us if you want us to keep rewatching RZP coming up.
We can have a lot more people chime in too, coming up with season 2, 3, 4. It gets
and tell us who you want to hear from.
Yeah, it gets spicy. See you soon. Stay tuned
Until we meet next.
Exactly.
RZP season 2 coming up.
Bye-bye.
Bye.